find the job that you are the unicorn for. Because right now, companies can find unicorns, like people who have industry experience, have worked with these customers, maybe have used their platform before. So that's where using LinkedIn to research companies, or like if you're using a platform in the company you've worked for, where you've worked before, there's like a platform you are really knowledgeable about, or an industry you're really knowledgeable about.
What's up, lifers, and welcome to the Daily Standup with Lifetime Value, where we're giving you fresh new customer success ideas every single day. I got my man Rob with us. Rob, you want to say hi?
Once again, bing bong.
And we've got JP with us. JP, can you say hi?
Easy killer.
And we have Ezra with us. Ezra, can you say hi?
What's up, everybody?
What's up? And I am your host. My name is Dylan Young. Ezra, thank you so much for being here. Can you please introduce yourself?
Of course. So Ezra Zimbler, I just started my own consulting company, Ezra Zimbler Consulting. After 10 years at LinkedIn, working with different customers to really help them use LinkedIn better, more efficiently, and really make sure they're getting the full value of the platform, which is what I'm here to talk about today. And I think like the LinkedIn community of customer success is, I would say, almost unmatched in terms of like the positivity and like, I think LinkedIn gets a hard time about some of the content that gets put out there. I feel like customer success, I don't want to say, we don't fall into most of those bad traps. I feel like it is one of the more authentic and like real communities on the platform that I've seen. So yeah, today's topic, LinkedIn, like let's talk about it, let's dig in. And I think, customer success is strong in it. My role at LinkedIn was in customer success. So we're also one of the biggest customer success departments in the world. If you combine Microsoft and LinkedIn, it is the biggest in the world. Microsoft owns LinkedIn. So big player in the big time CS game. But I think also like CS folks using LinkedIn, super important. And like the community on the platform is one of the better ones on LinkedIn.
All right, Ezra, I'm going to paint you into a corner here. If CS is a good LinkedIn community, what profession has a bad one? Hey, just, name 3 to 5. That's fine.
3 to 5.
Yeah, so
I'm kidding. You don't have to do it.
I think it's more like the your main, I'm not saying to say CS isn't mainstream, but I think your mainstream ones are where like you get a lot of people trying to put some interesting things. So like, your like classic leadership, like, folks posting in that vein, like you see a lot of this tried and true or not tried and true, sayings and like catchphrases and whatnot. I feel like that's where CS kind of is. It is more authentic, actual content and sharing and advice and like how people are actually doing it, where I feel like the leadership side, I think there's a lot of actually really good sales content, but I think there's also some sales content that like really goes into that more.
Our personal favorite in the TDSU group chat are the quote cards of people quoting themselves. So their own quote, and then the byline is their name. That's our favorite. And that when you talk about leadership, with their headshot, usually professionally done. Though when you talk about leadership, that's what I think of, is like the person who would take like an Abe Lincoln quote and like repurpose it as their own.
The classic Michael Scott, Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah.
Anyway, JP, I know your relationship with LinkedIn is fraught, so I'd love for you to ask Ezra what is on your mind when it comes to his topic.
Yeah. I've known Ezra for a few years now and been able to have some conversations with him. So I'm really glad you can join us on the pod. I am curious about, I know we have a lot of people listening, a lot of people who are looking for work. I see LinkedIn as these days, I think I see it primarily as a networking sort of function. But, I also think about the sort of current job market. And so I'm going to ask a question that I know a lot of my job seeking friends probably be interested in, which is, I've heard that a lot of times these like jobs are getting filled like the first hour, things get cut off. Like, what would you say to someone who's sort of looking to maximize how they use LinkedIn for their job search? And I'm talking about more in a tactical way, not necessarily like the networking part where you're talking with people.
Yes. No, it's a very, very good topic. I know, yes, the job market right now, crazy. And yes, and I think one thing I will say as well, like I think if you know your goal for LinkedIn, so in this case, job seeking, I think it's very important as you think about how you engage and work on the network. So I think knowing that that is your goal is a great first step in getting out there. So I think there's a lot of strategies. And I think right now, like you've got to be doing a lot because there's a lot of people out there who are also doing a lot. So like this job market, and I think it's customer success, but I think it's everywhere right now where like there's so much talent out there on the market that exactly your point, like, you're posting a job, there's 300 applicants in the first half an hour. Like recruiters are overwhelmed by having to even go through these. So like, I do think, being there quick is a benefit at the moment. But I think, also to your point, using it as a network to find the people. And the advice I've been giving to CSMs about the jobs search right now, which I think LinkedIn can help with, is find the job that you are the unicorn for. Because right now, companies can find unicorns, like people who have industry experience, have worked with these customers, maybe have used their platform before. So that's where using LinkedIn to research companies, or like if you're using a platform in the company you've worked for, where you've worked before, there's like a platform you are really knowledgeable about or an industry you're really knowledgeable about, like those are the places you want to focus your time, because they like right now the market is so flush with talent that they can find folks who have all, like, what used to be nice to haves are now things that people can find. So I think that's one of the big ones is like do some research into your industry, into your already area of expertise, or people you've worked with before. Like, again, this is the networking side, like talking to people, tapping into those networks, tapping into people who are working at companies that, again, you've maybe used their product before. So I think the research angle is there. I think the outreach angle is there. And then, there's the showing your expertise as well. So like, if there is a specific type of CS job you want, again, posting is, and posting, I think commenting is one of the most underrated things on LinkedIn. So like sharing your expertise,
subscribe
other people's posts, and not just saying, yeah, that's a great post, I love you. But more like, okay, like, yeah, I agree with you. Like, I really like this, but actually I think this. Like, I think that type of engagement is underrated. I think, people are not used to seeing that. So it's like, if you're someone who posts a lot, like seeing those comments really makes, it helps you. It makes you think that person, has something to say. And therefore, like if there are people you're trying to network with, those can be some early steps, is like if they're sharing content, start engaging in a really meaningful way.
Rob.
Ezra, I realize now hearing you say this, I think about this all the time without realizing I think about this all the time. Because I spend, because of the nature of my work, I end up spending more time than the average professional on LinkedIn, I assume. And so when you said it's authentic to be on LinkedIn, I was thinking initially, like, that's interestingly a hot take, that it's authentic to create content on LinkedIn. But that's not the way that the community was probably originally meant to function. The community, like LinkedIn as a community, is probably meant to function as a place for authenticity. So, but it has a terrible reputation for not being authentic. And I was really trying to unpack why. And I looked up the definition. You guys know what the definition of authenticity is?
Oh, let's hear it.
The quality of being authentic. So
it's like the explanation of the Fed rate.
So defining authentic, there's a few definitions, but it says of undisputed origin, genuine, and in existential philosophy it says relating to or denoting, this is interesting, an emotionally appropriate, significant, purposive, and responsible mode of human life. And I'm like, whoa, that's interesting.
That's not an authentic definition. It sounds like AI wrote that.
I got stuck on emotionally appropriate.
That's cool philosophy there.
So I got stuck on emotionally appropriate because that's so subjective, right? For some people, emotionally appropriate, or rather appropriate just in general, might be them talking about their work life. It might be them talking about their kids. It might be talking about a car accident that they were in. It might be them being vulnerable about them getting laid off at work. And
goodness gracious.
It's interesting though, just because what some people consider authentic, some people consider cringe. And yeah, this came up yesterday. I was catching up with a friend he's retaking a job as a senior product manager at LinkedIn. And he said, I love your content. And I said, it's deliberately half of a charade. Like, it's half a joke, half, like, all the time. I just keep it half a joke.
Well, because I think that's reading the room. That's reading the room. But Ezra, I want you to give us some closing thoughts. But before you do, I think part of it is speaking to your people. Like, what's authentic to your audience may be inauthentic to somebody else's audience as well. So there's a bit of like the lens through which it's viewed too. Ezra, go ahead.
Yes, and I'll take you a little bit behind the curtain. Like LinkedIn, their vision for content on LinkedIn is people who are doing the work, sharing what they're doing in a way that like other networks can't capture, because it's like, they don't want everyone to be a thought leader. They want people who are in the trenches doing these things, sharing hopefully authentically. And it's like that goal that's the vision LinkedIn has for the content on the platform. Now, has that always happened? Clearly not. But I think for yourself, and I think, Rob, that's a great point. It's like, you need to show up authentically to you and your audience. And like that, again, is how you figure out that sweet spot of the content you want to do. And I think testing that out is important. So like trying different things, see what works. And I think, yes, not taking yourself too seriously. That's advice I give in most situations. So yeah, I think all of these are really good. And like, I think to your point, figuring out what is authentically you that resonates with your audience, that's gold.
Perfect. So the riddle has been solved on why the algorithm rewarded those posts that were like, I spoke to 500 CROs in the past 48 hours. And what I learned was, because that probably, I'm being half sarcastic, but it denoted that they were out there doing the work. Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ezra, Rob just jumped off. He had to go early, but that is our time anyways. This has been fantastic. I'd love for you to come back and tell us a little bit more about what you're doing, how you're going to make folks successful. But for now, we do have to say goodbye.
Thanks for having me.
You've been listening to the Daily Stand-Up by Lifetime Value. Please note that the views expressed in these conversations are attributed only to those individuals on this recording and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of their respective employers. For all general inquiries, please reach out via email to hello@lifetimevaluemedia.com. To learn more about advertising on the Daily Stand-Up and the Lifetime Value Media Network, please reach out via email to advertising@lifetimevaluemedia.com. Find us on YouTube at Lifetime Value and find us on the socials at Lifetime Value Media. Until next time.